Hey everyone and welcome back. Okay, in this tutorial we're just going to do a quick review of what we've learned so far. So I went and got a coffee before recording this video, hence why over an hour has passed. I got Tim Hortons, it's very good. Um, okay, so far in this course we've covered a few different topics, okay? So we've seen variables and the different types of variables. We've seen let, var, and const. So var was the old way of declaring a variable. So, for example, we might say, you know, var name is equal to, and you might say, Bruce Wayne or Jessica or something like that. So we've created a variable. It's called name. We've seen the equal sign, so that's the assignment operator. That's where you're assigning some sort of value, in this case a string, to a variable, okay? But we also saw that let is now the more modern way of creating variables in JavaScript. So we've let name equal to Bruce Wayne. So maybe, for example, the variable is actually our friend's name. So like our friend's name. So, you know, Bruce Wayne is a really good friend, and then he goes off traveling, and we don't see him for a while. So then we make friends with, like, the Flash instead, or Wonder Woman. So now Wonder Woman is now our new friend while Bruce is off traveling. Okay, so basically the key thing about let is you're able to reassign a different value to a variable. You can't do that with const. Okay, so for example, maybe your date of birth. So date of birth. Um, let's say hypothetically my date of birth was, you know, May 5th, 1989. It's actually not, by the way. How dare you? I'm younger than that. But, that would hypothetically always be my birth date. So I couldn't reassign, date of birth later on because, as far as I'm aware, you're only born once, right? So I couldn't now come down here and say date of birth is now equal to, we'll say April 11th, 1995, right? That you're not able to reassign the value of a variable. So if I console.log out, date of birth, what do we get in the console? Well, let's have a look. So const date of birth is equal to this string, and then here what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to reassign the value, a different birth date basically to that variable, and we know with const that's not going to work. Okay, so we actually get an error, assignment to constant variable. Okay, so remember, if you have a variable where you want to update the value of it, potentially you can use let. With const you won't be able to do that, right? Because it's const for constant. Okay, awesome. We also saw in JavaScript that we can create comments. So for example, this is a comment that would be a single line comment, and use the forward slash and the asterisk to create a multi-line comment. So this is a multi-line comment, okay? And comments are very useful if you're working on a very large project, um, you know, writing basically instructions or snippets of code or explaining things for other developers. This is where we maybe create a user, this is where we get data, etc. Now, crucially, in this course so far, we've also seen the different data types, okay? So we've seen, for example, string, so let name equal to Jessica. And remember, when you're working with a string, if you start with a single quote, you must end with a single quotation. And similarly, you can also use double quotes. Just make sure you start and end with the same quote. Otherwise, you're going to get errors. So for example, if I was to start Jessica with a single quote and then come in at the end and try to do a double quote, that's not going to work. So you just need to be consistent, okay? So that is a variable called name. The variable is called name, okay? You see that there. And it is of type string. We can also create, ages in JavaScript, so that'll be of type number. So let age equal to 37, okay? And remember, 37 in quotes would actually be a string, so that's different to 37, the number, okay? We've also seen boolean, so we could say, for example, has paid, maybe we're running a gym, and that's true. Jessica is very diligent, thanks for paying Jessica. So this is a string, that is a number, and this is a boolean value. We also saw arrays in JavaScript. For example, we could have an array, we could say let heroes equal to, maybe we have, Superman, comma separate, Batman, Wonder Woman. Maybe we're also going to have the Flash. And, let's include Aquaman. We're getting the whole team together. We're going to have a bit of a party or something, okay? So we saw that we have an array here. So basically, you can say let the array name, so it could be heroes, it could be cities, use the equal sign, and we open and close the array with square bracket notation. And then this is the 0th index of the array. So if we wanted to log out Superman, we just say console.log heroes at index 0. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is an array, and it is an array of strings, okay? It is an array of strings. We also saw undefined. So for example, if I was to try log out to the console, an index in the array that didn't exist, we get undefined. So we know, for example, this array starts at 0. So if I console.log heroes, so just the array name at index 0, that's going to give us Superman, right? So just to prove that, we get Superman. So if we go 1, 2, 3, 4, if I was to try, console.log at index 4, we're going to get Aquaman, okay? Because that's the last value in the array. But if I go one beyond that, beyond, like we're talking Star Trek, like index 5, well, that's not going to work, right? There's no index 5, so we're going to get undefined, okay? So we've seen the undefined data type. We've also seen, of course, as well, null, where, we explicitly say a variable has no value. So maybe we want to get another hero invited over, but, we've said, well, we want to get someone else. We don't have a value yet. We're waiting to see who's going to join our team. You could put in null there, okay? So now we get null rather than undefined. We spoke previously about the difference between undefined and null. Null is where we explicitly state a variable has no value, and undefined, we've made a mistake in our code, basically. So I don't know if any of you watch a superhero series called Boys on Amazon Prime. They often talk about the seven best heroes. Well, maybe there's a vacancy, right? So if we were to say console.log the 7 and have Homelander and whoever else, potentially there's a vacancy. So we could have null in there, okay? Objects is a very important data type in JavaScript. I don't say it's the most powerful, but if you get good at coding, you end up working for a company, you're going to have to know about objects. I decided we'll cover that later on in the course, so we will talk about objects later on in this course. So you don't need to worry about that for now. Just be aware that objects do exist in JavaScript. We also saw how we can use the console. You've seen that here, console.log. And in the previous tutorial, we saw how we could, prompt a message to the user and get them to basically put in some input. So we saw that previously, where we did window.prompt, some sort of message, and then you can store that in a variable. So guys, that's just a quick recap of what we've covered so far. So we've covered the different types of variables, let, var, const. We've seen multi-line comments and single-line comments in JavaScript. Just be aware of the different data types for now: string, numbers, boolean, null, arrays, undefined objects. Don't worry, it'll come more natural to you as we progress through the course. We saw arrays, one of my favorite data types. And like I say, we haven't covered objects yet, but we will. Okay, that's awesome. In the next part of the course, kind of chapter or part 2, we're going to start talking about control flow in JavaScript, how we can make decisions, how we can repeat code. So we'll be looking at things such as if statements and loops, etc. So it's a pretty cool power to know. So I'll see you in the next tutorial.